Alrighty boys, so '07, I got a comment on YouTube from Vox Corsa asking for a tech tree reveal, and I've got a ton of vehicles. I never thought to do this, but since he requested, I guess I shall. And I think the best way to do this is going to be to split it up into different categories: air, ground, naval, etc. Because just the air tree alone is probably going to be a decently long video. So let's take a quick look at the player card here, just to give you an idea of what we're going to be getting into. Let me see, 15 medals for the USA, Distinguished Service Cross, Silver Star, Legion of Merit, Air Medal, Purple Heart, Distinguished Flying Cross again, Navy Commendation Medal, Army Good Conduct Medal, the Asiatic Pacific Campaign Medal, the World War II Victory Medal, the European African Middle Eastern Campaign Medal, and we've got some Bombardier Badge, Aerial Gunnery Badge, the Pilot Badge, and the Naval Aviator Badge. For USA, we have 235 units. This is not just air exclusive. I don't think I can filter that. And out of those 235 units, 128 of them are spaded. A lot more should be spaded, but sometimes new modules come out and they unspade my aircraft. A lot more aircraft are close to being spaded than not. For simulator battles, we've got 2,360 victories, 4,316 finished missions, 14,045 respawns, 67 days in fighters, 20 days in bombers, 8 days in attackers, 2 hours in helicopters. I need to do more helicopters. 4 days, 20 hours in tanks. We've got 1 day, 21 hour in tank destroyers, 15 hours, 37 minutes in heavy tanks, 10 hours, 33 minutes in SPAA, 13,507 air targets destroyed, 8,774 ground targets destroyed, and 115 naval targets destroyed in simulator battles. Let me see. For custom battles, I don't think that really matters. Victory, our custom battles are typically asymmetrical, so victories doesn't really matter. But we've done 153 custom battles. Those are like user-created content that we do a bunch of events and stuff. We've been doing that for 2 days and 10 hours. Let me see. I don't even know what the missions are here. Let me see. 207k points on the leaderboard for PvP rating. I don't even know what that is. Victories to battles ratio 55%. Relative average position of my team 66%. Air targets destroyed 13,500. Ground targets destroyed 8,774, and naval targets destroyed 115, and that's just for simulator. Going into the service record, I do have this filtered because it's going to be a USA air tree review. We've got simulator battles filtered to USA only, and we'll just show the first page here so you can see. Let me see. We've got it sorted by victories. Perhaps the better way to sort it will be air targets destroyed. I think that's probably a better metric to see what I'm actually flying for USA. And rank-wise, we got the XP50. We flew this a lot when we were first getting started in Sim, but as you'll see later, I don't really fly this a whole lot anymore. So this will get usurped pretty quickly as I start to fly more and more USA. But we got the P61A, F6F5 November, P38G, P61, P47D25, XP38G, the PBJ1H, the P51H, Bong's P38, P47D28, the F82, the P38 Low, the P38K, the P51D20, the B25J1, the P63A5, the F4U1C, the P47 Mike, the F80C, F4U1D, the P40F, B25J, the F16C, P38 Echo, and the P39 November. So those are our first 26 places for air kills in simulator battles. Let me see. about silver lions gained. It's pretty much the same list. A couple of other ones start to sneak in there when you start looking at silver lions. Yeah, like some of the ground pounders that I don't get a whole lot of kills in, but end up making a lot of money in. All right, now let's get into the tech tree. So for USA, what we're going to do is just going to unfolder all the vehicles here and scroll through them so that you can see what we've got. If there's any rare tidbits that you see, things that you did not know existed and you'd like a review or an opinion or a specific video about that vehicle, simply let me know. I'll try to point out some of my tech tree favorites as we go through. But here is everything we've got. So obviously I've got a ton of aircraft unlocked. I've been playing Sim for a long time. Got a folder here with the P40s. I love this F10 right here. It's one of my favorite P40s. We got the P38s down here, both unlocked. The P39, I love flying these P39s. Corsairs, I did not enjoy the Corsairs for a long time. But I'm recently, kind of starting to develop a little bit of affection for even the lower tier ones. The higher tier ones I always enjoyed, but the lower tier ones were hard. These SB2Cs, we've done so many events. I think these aircraft are just so cool. We've done a bunch of events with them, like carrier operations. We got this XP38G. I was able to get this before they. I don't think it's available anymore, and we were able to pick this up before they took it away. We got this, I don't know if it's rare, but we got this little Twitch drop P40, and I'll always take another P40. I don't know why there's not more P40s in the game. There's so many variants of that aircraft. The P51s here, I'm starting to, now that we've got so much momentum in the community, I'm starting to fly a lot more of the EC4 bracket. We've gotten some really good matches through, so a lot of these EC4 vehicles aren't going to be spaded because I haven't flown them a whole ton. But I really enjoy them, and now that we've got some good matches going, it's nice to actually fly them again. This PBJ-1H, absolutely love this thing. It's a monster for ground pounding. I like the 1J as well with the extra 50 cals, but this thing right here was, I think this is the first aircraft that made me fall in love with simulator. I think this was the very first thing that kind of showed me the magic. This B-26, notable thing about this and the B-25s that precede it, this is one of the easiest aircraft to get started in simulator with. If you're ever wanting like an easy introduction, just grab this thing. Just trust me, it's so good. XP55, I've got it. I've flown it. I love it, but I don't really use it. I have so few battles in this thing, simply because it's just too good and it's not really fair. There's a couple of aircraft that I'll point out that are similar to this XP55 in that I have them, but I don't really fly them a whole hell of a lot because it's just a little too one-sided. It kind of pisses the enemies off, so I try to be a good sport. This PV2D, I think this is decently rare. This is an event vehicle from back in 2017. It's low tier and just incredible. I mean, it's got a decent clip on it. It's decently defended with good gunner positions. It's pretty durable. It's pretty maneuverable. It's got a good sight aperture. It's got rockets. It's got 6 1,000-pound bombs as I believe it's a 3.3 in sim. Yeah, as a 3.3, it's got 6 1,000-pound bombs. Pretty phenomenal. This XF5F, I've had this thing forever, and I don't really use. I don't even know if I've ever flown it before, to be honest with you. I think I might have flown it like once or twice a couple of years ago, but never really used it. B-17s, I think these are one of the biggest travesties in the game, sitting at 5.7. Just an awesome aircraft that should be so much more prevalent than it is, made useless by an absurdly high battle rating. Whenever I talk about the absurdity of some of the battle ratings in Sim, This is one of my go-to examples. This B-17E being at 5.7 is laughable, just laughably bad. This thing should be like a 4.7, and that's being generous. The P-61 Charlie, this is another great learner aircraft for sim. This is just absolutely such a hand holder. I love it. I fly it. But it kind of going back to the XP-55, this is another one of those aircraft that I absolutely love, and but I kind of avoid it. You won't see me fly it a whole hell of a lot because it kind of pisses the enemies off. It's just a little too good for its own good. Same with the premium version that we have down here. Both of these are, and this thing being 4.0 is just crazy. Just crazy. This 5.0, this, I think it used to be 4.7 for a long time. Now it's 5.0, which makes a little bit more sense. But these things are so much fun. The Bearcat. This is an aircraft that I want to love, but have not fallen in love with yet. This is another one of those EC4 examples, and kind of those like high prop tiers. It's a good plane. It's got a kind of a wonky flight model, and I haven't quite mastered it yet. The plane sort of flies me. I sort of feel almost like I'm in a Spitfire, and I'm just a little bit behind the power curve. But now that I'm getting more and more into EC4 with the community being able to start good EC4 lobbies. Before the EC4 lobbies, they used to be snooze fest. You'd get it going. You might get 3 or 4 people in the lobby on each team, and you know, you'd fly around for 45 minutes and not see anybody. If I'm going to fly EC4, I want it to be like a full lobby, just chocked full of action. And we're just now starting to like get the community to a point where that's viable. And so I'm hoping to explore this Bearcat a bit more and kind of get a better feel for it. P-47s, these are planes that I started sim with, and you know, back when I was flying like B-25s and PBJ-1Hs, and they were aircraft that I wanted to love, but I just could not figure out. They're basically spaded, but I think another recent unlock came out for it, so it took the spade symbol away. However, they are great for ground pounding, which is what I initially used them for. They're great for new pilots to bring out those, you know, 1,500 pounds of ordnance plus the HVAR rockets, and go in, you know, lots of ammunition if you suck at, you know, marksmanship and stuff like that. But where it really shines is what I've been using it for lately, which is that high altitude, you know, manual engine control, boom and zoom style fighting. I am falling in love with these P-47s all over again. P-63s, I loved to hate these things for a long time. The 37mm cannon, that M10 cannon, I have a real love-hate relationship with it. When it's on, man, it's on. There's nothing more satisfying than just cracking an enemy fighter in half with a 37mm high explosive round, dude. It's pretty awesome. And 58 rounds for a 37mm cannon, plus pretty good ammunition for the 50 cals. Really good agility, pretty decent dive characteristics. The visibility in the cockpit leaves a little bit to be desired, but I really love these planes. I hated them for a long time, but they're another one that I'm really starting to kind of fall in love with, you know, as we play these higher tiers, and I've kind of changed up my play style a little bit. We start to get into the better P-38s here, the J and the low. This low is just insane. I honestly can't believe it's a 4.7. This thing, you know, a P-38 with dive brakes, which is like, you know, the P-38s that don't have it, that's like one of their only weaknesses. A little weak in the rate of roll, but with, you know, judicious rudder use, you can really make this thing do some crazy shit. And having those dive brakes in those boom and zoom fights can make a huge difference. This thing's pretty expensive. I didn't fly it for a long time. I think it's 10,000 silver lions to spawn it, as opposed to like 7,800 silver lions for this one. So quite a bit more expensive, because people are so monstrous in this thing. But this is a hidden gem right here. A lot of people sleep on the P-38L 5LO, and I absolutely love it. P-47s, not really much more to be said here. It's kind of just better versions of what we saw before, except for this November. This P-47 N15, this one everybody hates, and I don't hate it. This is one of those planes that People always tell me is just worthless and everything like that. And it definitely has a bit of a wonky flight model, but you know, just a good bit more performance. It's with the snipped off wings, like it it's very unstable, and you've got to be very careful with it. But if you can manage to be careful with it and keep it, you know, coordinated and everything like that, you can do a lot of pretty crazy stuff in this P-47N. And I'm looking forward to flying this more now that I'm starting to get more into kind of like the energy fighting, manual engine control style stuff. This F6F5 November. Where was the other F6F? Did I miss? Oh, the other F6F was up here. I might have missed these Wildcats. Yeah, we got the F4F. I didn't really fly these F4Fs a whole lot. I'm not a huge fan of these. I want to be, but I'm not. This F6F5, it's a great plane. But the visibility to the rear is so atrocious. Kind of like those early Corsairs. The visibility to the rear is so bad that it doesn't matter how good the plane is. Like, that ends up getting me killed more often than not because I can't see behind me clearly. And this is where the F6F 5 November really comes in with that radar pod. And it does work in sim. It does IFF, identify friend from foe. You can just point your plane. I think you got like 120 degrees of azimuth, you know, range, and 60 degrees on the vertical plane. This thing scans a massive area and about 10,000 yards up ahead of you. That is perfect. You can literally take this plane, take it to 10,000 feet, do one lap, just one little 360 orbit, and you know where everybody is. So even though you can't see behind you, if you just, you know, pay attention to that radar set, it's you can kind of stay ahead of where the enemies are coming from and stuff like that. And the addition of those 20mm cannons does make it a little bit more, a little bit less agile. But the trade-off being that insane firepower, those 20mm cannons are insane, and you get a crap ton of ammunition for them. I absolutely love this F6F5 November. This is another plane that I've been flying more recently, but I hadn't flown a lot in the past because this is one of those ones that kind of pisses people off. And you know, I like to fly with and against my friends, but if I'm always pissing my friends off by flying these kind of cheesy planes, a lot of people think this is a cheater plane. I don't necessarily agree, but I understand their point of view, and I try to fly in a way that's not going to piss everybody off. This BB4Y, this is a great example for the B-17s. When I tell you that the B-17s are laughable at 5.7, this is the kind of stuff that I'll point out. Like, this thing is faster, it has more bombs, it has better gunners. It's you know, I mean, it's just everything that the B-17 is not, and it sits at the exact same BR. It's crazy. The difference between them. This thing carries 8 times 500s. This thing carries 8 times 1000s. You know what I mean? You got twin 50 cal mounts all over this thing. 2 top turrets on it, and it's flying like you know, a good, you know, 10-20 knots faster. Pay no attention to the stat card when they say 260 knots on the B-17. Like, that's crazy. I wish they would do less max speed and do more cruise speed. Yeah, you know, like cruise level flight speed, because that's way more important. Anyway, the BF-109 F4. This is something I bought a long time ago because I got a 75% off coupon, and I've always kind of had the theory that anything that's 75% off is worth it. This might be a rare case of something that was not for me, because I do not fly captured enemy equipment in sim. I feel like it breaks the spirit of sim. I hate when other people do it, so I don't do it myself. And seeing people fly this thing in my simulation matches when we start lobbies with the community, I just think it's so shitty. Like, if you want to fly a 109, go grab Germany. Like, you know, I like doing sim where it's, you know, Axis versus Allied, stuff like that, so I'm always trying to start historical matches. Stuff like this BF-109 F4 is one of the reasons that I'm always talking to Gaijin about, you know, hey, when we make player-created simulation lobbies, I'd really like if there was like a kind of a quote-unquote historical toggle that I could put on that would allow me to exclude stuff like this and make it so that things like this could not spawn in that match. And you know, by all means go fly in a different simulator lobby, but I would love to fight some, like, I call it a purist toggle, where it's like 109s versus P51s, and you know what I mean, like zeros versus wildcats, instead of zeros versus zeros, and 109s versus 109s, and P47s versus P47s. Like, if I wanted to do that, I would go to a custom match, or I'd go to play realistic or arcade or something like that. But when I'm playing simulator, I prefer, you know, a more historical context, and that's why I do like Axis versus Ally styled rooms and stuff like this. Like, I have it. You're never gonna see me fly this thing. If you guys ask for a review on this particular plane, the answer is gonna be no. And I mean, if you ask for a BF-109 F4 review, I will review the F4, just not this one. I'll go fly for Germany. The King Cobra, I do not have it, but I have unlocked it a couple of times, renting it from Gaijin, just using my CC privileges, and I wish I had it. This is something that I don't have that I wish I did. Enough said there. P61 Alpha, just a lower BR version of the same one here. They're pretty much, as far as I'm concerned, in the same category. This one has 2 less bombs and slightly less, engine performance, but otherwise they're effectively the same. And this one's just at a much lower BR. This thing is ridiculous. This thing is such a hand holder in sim. This is the perfect transition for somebody trying to get into fighters. I absolutely love the P61, but I don't fly it as much as I have love for it, because it's such a it upsets people so much when they see too many P61s. And on that note, we're moving right into the XP50. This thing is insane. I absolutely love it. It's so fun to fly. It's got such good visibility, such good performance. The only thing that's kind of weak about it is it gets really compressy in a dive. So you have to be careful about your dive speeds, and that is important because this thing climbs like a bat out of hell. This thing's just an absolute rocket ship. You could blink and you're at 10,000 feet after takeoff. It's stupid how much energy you can get in such a short amount of time. So because you can stack energy so effectively, you do have to be careful with it, because if you dive too fast, you can definitely get into trouble with it. But if you're able to manage that and stay ahead of the dive speeds, this thing just sinks. And this is another one that really upsets people when I fly it. This is one of those quote-unquote cheater planes, and it's very good. It's a plane that I love to fly that I never do, because people get so upset when they see too many XP50s, and the enemies end up feeling like it's unfair, and then they end up leaving the match. So I'd rather fly, something a little bit not as strong. This is great though for like a new pilot, if you're like first getting into sim and you're trying to get into those high altitude fights, but you don't quite have the patience to climb. Something like this is perfect. If you're new to sim, flying overpowered equipment I think is totally fair. And then I think at a certain point you just kind of get to a point where flying stuff like this is almost not fun because it's too good. Sort of like the A7M1 for Japan and stuff like that. The BTD, this plane right here, man, this was the only plane that I ever bought that I regretted at first. And I bought it thinking that it was something that it was not. And I never really used it a whole lot, and it just kind of sat there. And then Naval got released about 3 years ago, and I started playing Naval super hardcore, and this thing is just amazing. I love it. I bring it into Naval matches all the time. It's low tier. I can bring it into destroyer matches and stuff like that, and I absolutely love this thing. I use it in sim a lot more often now. When I love doing like carrier operations with it, with like Crab Nation, and getting a bunch of BTDs and Corsairs, and we depart the carrier. We go try to sink the enemy carrier. This thing has 2 torpedoes it can drop. It's just stupid. It's really fast. It's got awesome cannons. It's actually decently maneuverable once you get rid of the ordnance. You can't really see behind you all too well, but it's just a lot of fun to fly. I hated it when I first bought it. I felt like I wasted my money and that I made a mistake. And then after like 2 or 3 years later, it's one of my favorite planes to fly for like naval operations in EC3. And I absolutely use the hell out of it in naval mode, especially when I'm playing like destroyer tier matches. Okay, F-82. This thing, it's fucking great. I love it. I don't know, man. Like, what more do you got to say about the F-82, man? You slap 14 freaking 50 cals on this thing. You're just a fast, laser beam. You can climb like hell. You can dive like just a fucking screaming down on people. It's a little weak in the roll, but that's not what it. I mean, you're not gonna turn fight with it. But that's just not what it's designed to do. But if you use it the way that it was meant, and you do stuff like intercepting bombers, oh my gosh, man, this thing will make absolute short work out of a flight of bombers. It's so satisfying too. You don't even have to aim good. You just point your plane in that general direction and screw everything that's in front of you. It's so much fun. It's so unique, and I love it. And now that we're doing a lot more EC4, I'll be flying it a lot more. This is one of those planes that was trapped in that EC4 black hole where I love a lot of the EC4 planes. I just couldn't get, I didn't love the EC4 lobbies because they were slow and boring. But now we're starting to get these 16 versus 16 EC4s that everybody stays the entire time, and I'm starting to get to fly stuff like this again, and it's such a joy. P-51s. Again, not to beat a dead horse, but the exact same EC4 trap. So you'll see a lot of unspaded P-51s because I just haven't been able to fly them enough to actually fully research them. I love them all. There's each one of them is pretty awesome, and I'm really excited to be able to fly them a lot more with you guys. These F4U lates, these later model F4Us with the more bubble canopy type situation, these solve the only thing that I don't like about the early Corsairs, where I can actually see mostly behind me. And I've loved these things for a long time, but they were also trapped in that EC4 black hole. A26. If this thing was a lower BR, then this would be what I would tell people to fly. Instead of the B26, I would say fly these bad boys. These things are awesome. And they're good learner aircraft too, but EC4 might not be the most appropriate lobby to learn inside of. But I absolutely love these aircraft. This was one of the first aircraft that we did a large-scale simulator event with, and it was so much fun. And you guys can, go back into the event videos and see this one, and it was so much fun. This was back when we were doing events in live EC lobbies, and we just had like 16 of these bad boys spawn in, and we went on this huge bombing run together and got intercepted by FW-190s, and it was just really, really cool. B-17 chilling at 6.3, even worse. Why would you ever bring this B-17G when you got a B-24? But yeah, a lot of these higher tier American or middle tier American bombers are just trapped at really bad BRs where they can't be used very effectively. P-51. Just nothing more to be added there. I love it, and I'm really looking forward to flying it more. Bong's P-38. This is maybe one of my more rare vehicles. I love this thing. I bring this thing out every time I can. It's so much fun. I mean, it's not really any better or worse than any other P-38. There's nothing really special about it other than it just says Richard Bong's P-38, and it's pretty rare. It's worth, I think, a decent little bit of money. And I must have asked for this aircraft, I don't know, 10 times from Gaijin, and was just like, hey, can I get Bong's P-38? Can I get Bong's? And they wouldn't give it to me because it was like too valuable, and I was not significant enough as a streamer to be worth just giving this aircraft. And when I made partner, Mike Goes Boom, he was like, hey, congratulations on making partner, and just so you know, I put a little surprise on your account for you. And I logged in, and bam, there's Richard Bong's P-38. I must have asked for it 10 times over in the year prior, and I was just like, hell yeah. And I fly the tits off of this thing. I absolutely love it. It's so much fun. And whenever people see it and they see, because they'll see the P-38, it looks like every other P-38, and then I'll kill them, or they'll kill me, and they'll see it says Bong's P-38, and they're like, oh man, that's so cool. I always get comments when I'm flying this thing, and that's, I guess, the only thing that makes it worth anything, is that it's just so unique. But it's not really any better or worse than any other P-38. The P-38K, I love this one, but again, EC4 black hole. This thing was trapped in it for a long time, so I don't have a lot of stick time in this P-38, but it's just It's just a better version of all the other P-38s. P-51, same deal as before. B-29. This is the pinnacle of the unfortunate nature of the BR system in Sim and how certain aircraft have been trapped at unusable BRs. Go join a 7.0 Sim lobby against jets and load this thing down with bombs and go ahead and climb at 300 feet per minute at 150 knots for 20 minutes, hoping that a jet doesn't see you, only to be shot down 30 seconds before you make it to the target when you spent the last 25 minutes climbing. This thing is such a cool plane that's just trapped at an unusable BR. It's super unfortunate, you know. I mean, yeah, if you can get this thing to 30,000 feet, it'd probably be a lot more viable, but that's not how Sim works. You know, we take off and we're 5 miles away from the enemy target, and you can't climb. You just, you're so slow, you're so big. It's got good gunners on it, but that doesn't really matter when people are screaming, you know, jets in on you and just obliterating you with cannons before your turrets can even turn their direction. This thing is a plane that I want to love, but I just cannot fly because it's at a broken BR. Unfortunately, this thing needs to come down and be... This thing needs to be an EC4, honestly, and same with all the other ones. The AD-24 and the AM-1 Mauler. Love these planes. Love flying them off of carriers. They're still trapped in that EC4 black hole. But this AM-1 Mauler, I've got the triple torpedo. This thing carries three torpedoes. 3 really good torpedoes, and I absolutely love it. I am trying to spade it out and get it totally ready so I can bring it into naval more often. This is just a big boy version of that BTD. The BTD is cheaper, it has better rewards, it's a little bit better flight performance, and I can bring it into lower tier matches. But this AM-1 Mauler is pretty awesome. That 150% torpedoes is freaking awesome. Here we go. Another Bearcat. This is the same deal as this one up here. I want to love it. I want to get better at it. I am not. This plane I suck at, and I need to get better at it. But now that we're doing some EC4 lobbies, I'm hoping to fly it a bit more. This thing I loved, the Tiger Cat. This thing was really cool. I don't have a whole ton of stick time in it, but I was able to spade it out, and I really enjoyed my time in the F7F. But I've got very little stick time in it. I don't really have much to say about it, other than I want to fly it more. P-51H, man. Golly, the story with the P-51H. This thing not too long ago went up in BR. Finally, this thing is still maybe even at too low of a BR. It's so good. It's too good. I love it. I don't fly it. It's another one of those planes where if you bring this thing out against the enemies too many times in a row, they will get pissed off at you because it's too good and they feel like there's nothing that they can do to stop you. But man, I think this thing used to be a 6.3, maybe a 6. I think it was a 6.3 for a long time. It was the top daddy king of EC4 for a hot minute, and they finally knocked it up to 6.7, and it's still a monster. All right, moving on to the XA-38 Grizzly. Oddballs convinced me to buy this thing, and I don't regret it. It's so much fun. It has such a good cockpit. I love big gun airplanes, as many of you guys that are fans of the channel can attest to. I love tail draggers. I love twin engines. This thing has full trim. It carries bombs. It's got lots of ammo, decent 50 cal guns, and the gunner on top and bottom is a lot of fun. This thing is such a great ground pounder for, you know, EC 3 and 4 lobbies. I don't bring it super often because it's difficult to fly ground pounding missions on stream. I get stream sniped a lot, which I don't care about. You know, I think it makes the stream more fun to watch. But I have a hard time flying planes like this because people are always going to take off, and wherever I'm going to, they will meet me there, and they're going to bring, you know, a bunch of fighters and try to... I won't get a lot of time on target with stuff like this, but every now and then I'll kind of bring it out when the match is really close. and the enemies are doing like high altitude boom and zoom, I'll bring out something like this and kind of force them back down to the deck and hope that my team can, achieve an energy advantage and a bit more air superiority. So this is something that I like to bring out, like when my team is having a hard time on the A point, and it's like I can go to the A point and get involved in that dogfight, which is almost always what I'm inclined to do. But sometimes I'm like, wild card bitches, and I'll bring out the XA-38 and I'll go to the ground battle and I'll be like, okay, you guys are either going to have to make a couple of people leave the A point to come down to this ground battle and kill me, or you're going to leave me alone and I'm going to kill all of your tanks. And then kind of counter the fact that you won the A point. So this is just sort of like something that I keep in my back pocket to kind of force the enemies to do what I want them to do. P-59A. I've got it. It's good. I love it. I've never really flown it a whole lot. The few times that I have, I've absolutely loved it. And this is another one of those planes where if you bring this thing out, you're gonna get some fan mail. If you fly this thing more than once or twice in a row, you're gonna get a nasty message from one of the enemies being like, you're a little bitch, fly it. Yeah, you're only flying broken planes or what, and and to be fair, that's kind of true. This thing's broken. I mean, a fucking 6.7 jet fighter that's doing 370 knots with fucking 37mm and cannon and a 12.7 Brownings, like, ugh, yikes, man. This thing is crazy, and I never fly it because it's a little too crazy. But if you're like a new pilot or something like that, I think that this is pretty cool. But unfortunately, I don't get a lot of stick time in it. Moving on down to the AU-1. This might be my favorite rare vehicle for aircraft. It's a really tough call, but if this is not my favorite, it's like number 2 or 3. It's so high up there. This thing is insane. I'm talking 2,000-pound bomb, 4 250-pound bombs, 2 1,600-pound bombs, 2 500-pound bombs, 4 20mm cannons, and if that wasn't enough, you could chuck 4 HVAR rockets on there. You bring this thing into a naval match, and you're just one-shotting multiple battleships. And then you get rid of your bombs, and you're not just some like crappy little bomber. You're a freaking Corsair, dude. Like, it's just like, hey, I'm a bomber, now I'm a fighter. Like, it's insane. If somebody dives on you, you just jettison the ordnance and you're ready to rock. I absolutely love this thing. I use it in naval all the time. I haven't used it in sim a whole lot because, again, this thing is stuck in that EC4 black hole, which we are now starting to solve. But I use this all the time in naval, and it's indispensable. I wish it wasn't a rare premium, because this is one of those cases of something being like, kind of like the P-59, like, whenever this super good equipment gets locked behind a paywall, you really start to flirt with that pay-to-win aspect, and I think that this is one of those situations where this thing is pay-to-win. If you buy this, you're winning your naval fights. This thing is just stupid good. Same thing with like the P-59A. I think stuff like this should be grindable. This stuff like this should either be, grindable, or at least have like a tech tree equivalent. Like something like a Bong's P-38. I don't consider this pay to win. This is just a P-38 with a special name. It's like it's essentially like a cosmetic, right? This is totally fine. It's rare, it's coveted, it raises eyebrows, but not because the plane is broken, but just because it's unique. And I think that's a good way to handle the premiums. But when you start getting into stuff like this, and if it was regular GE purchase, but this is like from the Space Race event, and if you didn't get it, then you just can't get it, and that's unfortunate because it's so good. It just beats the socks out of anything else that you could possibly use. And I wish that they at least had like, I mean, it's fine that they have this rare one with like the cool skin, but I wish they had maybe like a tech tree version that had like the standard, kind of dull blue skin or something like that, and just called it a day and allowed the general public to be able to access stuff like this, because it's incredible. The P-47M, I mean, just like all the other P-47s, I love it. I want to fly more of it. This has been broken. This has been sitting at that broken EC4 black hole for a long time, and I'm really looking forward to flying it more with you guys as we fill up those EC4 lobbies. The F2G 1. This is the Super Corsair. I've got it. I'm glad that I have it, but I did not get a chance to use it a whole lot yet. EC4 Black Hole, that's kind of the same story with most of this crap in here. I'm really looking forward to flying this thing. I've heard a lot of good stuff about it, but I've maybe flown it twice. And you'll notice the 190, the Spitfire, this stuff I've never purchased. Like, I'm never planning on purchasing this. Like, if I got a 75% discount, I might purchase it just so I could use it in like arcade battles or something like that. You're never gonna see me fly something like this in sim. I love the FW190. I love the A8, and I will fly an FW190 A8. But if I'm going to fly this, I'm going to fly it as Germany, not as the United States. Yeah, same thing with like the Spit. Like I just don't understand stuff like this. You know, like if I wanted to fly a Spitfire, I'm gonna go fly a Spitfire, but I'm gonna go fly it as Great Britain. And then this, I just honestly like I want it, but I've got the tech tree version, and like this is how I feel like this stuff should go. You know, you got the tech tree version that you can grind for, and then you've got, you know, the premium version that's got, you know, slightly better rewards, maybe slightly different performance, but this one's sitting at a slightly higher BR. You know what I mean? But it's like essentially like you kind of got a little bit of the same thing, and you got what everybody can have, and then this one's a little bit more exclusive. But you know, is it broken? Is it pay to win? You know, I think that this kind of satisfies that a little bit better than stuff like this. The A1H, the infamous toilet bomb bomber. You can actually put a toilet on this thing. I grinded this back in the Battle Pass, and it's super cool. I love flying it. It's been in that EC4 Black Hole, just like all the other ones, but especially flying with guys like Crab Nation and getting a bunch of people to take off on a carrier deck. When you have a couple people with stuff like this thing gets flares too, by the way. It's crazy. But it's got a crap ton of really cool ordnance, you know, 20mm cannons, which, yeah, what's not to love about that? 20mm cannons, by the way, are the best. I mean, it's like, if you held a gun in my head and said I could only ever use one caliber of gun for the rest of my life, it'd be 20mm. You know, 30mm is overkill, difficult to use. 50 cals are super easy to aim, lots of ammunition, and then that's great, but sometimes they can not quite do enough damage. 20mm is just the perfect balance between ammunition capacity, round velocity, you know, accuracy, and, you know, effectiveness. It's the perfect gun for World War II dogfighting, and it's, you know, at a manageable weight as well. So I love 20mm, and this thing's bristling with them. It's got rockets, countermeasures, 2,000-pound bombs, and it takes off and lands on aircraft carriers, which, you know, I'm a huge fan of anything that uses aircraft carriers. Let me see here. Moving on to the A2D. This is there's a lot of bad blood with this plane. Back when Zombers really spilled out into Sim, this was their go-to vehicle. I can't remember what BR it used to be sitting at, but they abused this thing so much that it went up to 7.0. It's a lot of fun. It's super fast. It's got a really cool engine sound to it. It's a lot of fun to fly and take off and, you know, go on ground strike missions with it. And it's actually not bad at dogfighting, to be honest with you. But if you fly this thing, just be warned. There's a stigma about it that's associated with Zombers, and for that reason, I don't fly it a whole hell of a lot. But it's a very cool plane that I'm very glad that I have. F-89B and the F-89D. This is another Oddbaw's purchase. This is back when he had me come and play some Air RB with him. And he told me to buy these, so I did, and those were the only times I ever used them. I don't really know much about them. This one's just got a crap ton of rockets, and yeah, I had to buy this one because Oddballs wanted me to buy this one so that we could fly it together in Air RB. And I guess those Mighty Mouse rockets have like some kind of like airburst mechanic to them, and we were using them for that, and it was funny, it was cool, but that was like the only time I ever used it. So I don't know. Maybe as we start getting up into EC5 and 6 lobbies, we can start bringing stuff like this out. I've got it. I just, you know, I've maybe used it like 6 times. The Canberra. This is a much more appropriate. Like, you know, if you're gonna, you know, if the B-29, you're slow and you climb like dog shit. This thing, it doesn't carry as many bombs, but it's way faster. and it has better climbing performance. And honestly, in sim, when you're taking off on the front line, like that matters a lot more. So if I had the choice between the B-29 or something like a Canberra, like I'm bringing this, because even though I might not be able to drop as many bombs, like I'll actually be able to drop my bombs. Like you're never gonna make it to the target in this thing. You will make it to the target in this thing, but you might have to make 2 passes, and that's fine because you have a pretty good chance of actually making any passes. The F3D. This thing is phenomenal. I love it. I love everything about it. This is one of the early jets that I adore playing. It's got such a cool cockpit configuration, such a nice looking cockpit. The side-by-side seating, the 20mm cannons, which we've already talked about, good payload, and then once you drop that payload, you are a dogfighter. Like you are just as dangerous as everybody else out there, and that's just so cool to go on those multi-role missions. You know, you depart, you go, you bomb your mini base, and then you go and you get into your scuffle. And if you survive and you go back and you land, you grab more bombs, you go on another bombing run. I mean, this is such a cool plane to fly in sim because you can do it all. And if nobody comes up to meet you for a dogfight, then you just go and bomb the crap out of their bases. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Really haven't flown the Banshee at all. We've got it. I don't even know if we've flown it at all. I don't even know if it's trained. A lot of these, kind of middle high tier jets are going to be in this category where I don't have them spaded. It's difficult. These kind of going into the EC4 black hole. A lot of these aircraft are super, super tough to get a good lobby going for. And I like the planes. I want to fly them more, but because it's so difficult, the main problem with these aircraft is that they're very expensive. Some of them are just as expensive as like top tier planes, but they don't really have as much performance to back it up. And so, you're not supersonic. You don't have crazy missiles and stuff like that. Some people do have missiles, and then you don't have countermeasures for them. And so not a lot of people will fly these brackets. And when they do, because the planes are so expensive, they're very timid with their aircraft. And since they're so fast, they will run from you. So, you'll spend 30, 45 minutes looking for somebody to kill. And then by the time you find them, they'll just, if you've got the advantage, they'll just run away from you. And then everybody kind of gets bored and they leave the lobby, and it ends up being like 2 versus 1 style. And so it's very difficult to get these planes to work well in sim. This is a bracket that I'd like to fly more of, that unfortunately I just don't think the community has enough momentum and tenacity for these aircraft, has been my experience. Everybody will be like, hey, let's do an EC6 lobby, and I'm like, okay, cool, let's do an EC6 lobby. Everybody votes for EC6, so we start up the lobby, and it starts off okay, and then people die once or twice, and they go, well, I'm broke, I'm leaving, and then the lobby ends up being like empty, and then I'm flying around for like 45 minutes in an empty lobby, and I'm like, all right, I guess I'm gonna go fly EC3 then. And that's kind of how that story always goes. But as the community grows, hopefully, kind of like how we fixed up EC4, and now we're able to get good EC4 lobbies, which also suffered from the exact same thing as the EC5 and 6s. Now that we've kind of got this able to get going more regularly, I'm hoping that this is kind of the next one that we can start working on as a community, and getting more people into this kind of stuff, because these jets are a lot of fun to fly when they're there's not missile spam everywhere. And then you start to get into these like more higher performance jets, and this is where that starts to pick back up again. F-104, fastest fuck boy. We've got the Charlie model. Haven't spaded these out. A lot of these you're going to see are unspaded. I got a lot of work to do with them. But especially with Crab, we've been flying a lot more of these lobbies, like 9.7, 10.7, 11.3, stuff like that. So I'm starting to get a lot more exposure to a lot of these jets. And there's some pretty cool ones in here. I missed out on this. I wish I had gotten it. I did get to test drive it. It was fun, but I did not unlock it. The Harriers, I love all the Harriers, especially with the Crab Nation events that we've got going on. A-10, this is a plane that I love, and I will fly anytime with somebody else, but I don't really fly it by myself. getting like a formation going with crab and getting like we've had formations where we've had like 5 or 6 of these things taking off together and going on ground strikes and like using the aim 9Ls to cover each other and stuff like that. You got a crap ton of countermeasures and stuff, and you could just lay waste to a ground battle. It's so fun seeing like 5 or 6 A-10s doing gun runs and dropping bombs and rockets and stuff. It's just really cool, and I want to fly this more. And having the premium version where it's really cheap is nice. You can spawn this thing in for super cheap. The F5C. Everybody told me to get this. I got it. Haven't used it yet. Need to. Next time we fly a 10.3 lobby, and I typically end up having to go to the Russian side because everybody wants to fly for America, and that's what a lot of these jets are going to end up suffering from. Is I tend to fly the underdog side. And everybody, whenever we start a big lobby, they all want to fly this thing. I want to fly it too, but I also want to get a good lobby going. And if we don't have any enemies, then it doesn't matter. Like, we can't all stack one side. So I've had this thing. It's burning a hole in my pocket. I want to fly it, but I'm going to need some people to commit to flying as the Russians against it if you guys ever want to see this thing. F-105, never really flown it. Should. Haven't. And then we're starting to get into like what we're actually researching and unlocking down in here. The Fade. I want to get this thing. I've shot them down a whole bunch. They're a lot of fun to dogfight against, but I don't have one. So, but I'm getting the F8. I'm getting the Crusader up here, and then I'll get this one here next. F4s, love them. Yeah, I don't know. There's not an F4 that I don't love flying. These things are great. I mean, it's kind of like the same deal with like the F3D, where it's like you take off and you are a fighter bomber, man. And it's like you take off, you got all kinds of bombs and rockets and all kinds of stuff to do cool things with, and you still got missiles that you're carrying. You're fast as fuck, boy. And you go out there, you destroy a base, and then you just go in dogfighter mode. It's a lot of fun. My first ever model aircraft that I built with my dad was an F4 Phantom, and I think they should be ugly as shit, but they're not to me, and I don't know what it is about them. Like if it was any other airplane, I'd look at it and be like, that looks really stupid. But there's something charming about the F4 Phantom, where it's just like it should be ugly, but it works somehow. It pulls it off. The F5E, I need to unlock this. I'm looking forward to it, but again, kind of like the F5C, I never really get an opportunity to fly at these ranks because I always have to fly for Russia to fill the enemy team. F4, nothing more to be said there. F4, I did get to test drive this one. I really loved it. The naval version, me and Avalanche did a whole thing with this formation flying together, and it was a lot of fun. But I did lose the test drive, so it's gone. Never really flown this because I don't have it. F111. Man, bark, bark, bark. Am I right? This thing's awesome. Super fast. I've only flown it like 5 or 6 times since it's come out, but it's awesome. I want to fly it more, but again, I need more Russians. Like if you guys want to see me fly the F-111, then I need you to join the 10.3 lobbies as Warsaw so that I can fly NATO. Because 99% of the time at 10.3, you're going to see me flying Warsaw. Because most people want to fly the NATO side because they think the NATO side's better. And so I never really get to fly stuff like this as often as I'd like to. I really want to get this. I need to get this. I've always thought the Intruder was such a cool plane. What is it, The Last Flight of the Intruders or something like that? That movie, I watched that when I was a kid, and I don't know. I've always thought it was a cool plane. I need to buy this, but I do not have it. Don't have that. Don't have that. All right, now we started getting to some of the tippy-toppy tier jets. F-14, love it. Oh my god, dude, manual wing sweep, dude, fast as fucking hell, dude. Like it's so cool. I never really get to fly it. Everybody always wants to fly for blue. I end up flying for red. I don't even have this thing spaded, and I've had it forever. I've maybe flown it like 3 or 4 times. It was super fun every time I flew it, but I just never get to. Same thing, F-15. I've had it. I never get to fly it. I want to fly it more. I just need more people to fly for the red side. And now that the red side's starting to get some like better stuff, like the Gripen and whatnot, I'm hoping that the perceived power imbalances will sort of change, and maybe we can get some people to fly as the Op 4 so that I can actually start flying some of these things. Same thing, F-16. The few times that I've flown it, it's just been so much fun. The Block 50, oh my god, dude, I've had some. This thing might have been what made me kind of fall back in love with top tier, because I could actually get into a proper gunfight. I've had more, gunfights where it's just been me and a MiG or an SU just dancing, and we're just taking little squirts of cannons at each other. Both of us are out of missiles, and if we don't get interrupted by player number 3 coming in off the top ropes with a Fox 1, then these have such satisfying ends when you can just get guns on and you're just cranking and banking these things. Like this feels like I can fly this thing in manual with, and I go back to like my stick and rudder roots, which is what I really enjoy flying. Which some of these other jets, it's you're basically in dampening, and it's just all about speed and energy management and stuff like this. This thing, you can just really grip it and rip it, and it's just a lot of fun to fly. And the F-14, just like the earlier model, I've used it in events, and that's been about it. I don't even know if I've flown this thing in too many like actual battles. Anyway, that's it for America. All of my American aviation from the top down, and where I am currently researching, and I'm getting close. I'm getting close to being done. And you gotta keep in mind, even though you guys might be like, "Oh my God, you've been playing for so long and you don't have America done yet," keep in mind that I do 90% of my play back in here, and rank 3 researching into like rank 6 and 7 is not efficient, so I lose a lot of my RP and stuff like that due to the inefficiencies of research. This is kind of why I tell people, like, don't focus on the grind, just focus on playing what you enjoy. This is what I enjoy, and so I don't really hyper focus on the numbers. I didn't even know that I was researching this, and I had no idea how close I was. But one of these days I'll finish up an EC3 battle, and they'll be like, "Hey, congratulations, you got the F8U," and I'll be like, "Cool," and then I'll wait for a 75% off day. That's what I typically do, is just unlock as many things as I can across the board, and then I buy it all when it's 75% off. But anyway, that is my tech tree for the U.S. Air, as requested by Vo Corsa. And if you guys have any of these aircraft that you in particular would like a more in-depth review, some actual stick time in sim, and like just a kind of a dedicated, hyper-focused evaluation, and we can go over features and speed limits, and performance characteristics, and ordnance options, and camos, and all that, just let me know in the comments below. And if you guys make a request to see any one of these particular planes, especially like rare ones, if you guys are like, "Oh my God, I really want to see the PV2D, I've never seen that thing before," and you can't really go get this yourself, like it's just not available, so especially stuff like that, just leave a comment below, and I will do my best to make a video specifically for you to cover that vehicle, and we'll just undress the whole thing. Anyway, guys, appreciate your interest, and fly safe. Good hunting. 07.